President Trump talking up one of his biggest promises on the campaign trail, building that wall along our southern border with Mexico, but vowing to build it not the same as paying for it. And now, as the White House and Congress square off over a spending bill, a possible government shutdown actually looms on the horizon unless lawmakers come up with the money to get the project started. Joining me now is Basil. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said Basil, because we just talked about how I know it's Basil. Basil Smikle, thank you very much for talking to us, Executive Director of the New York State Democratic Party and a former aide to then Senator Hillary Clinton, and Lawrence Jones, Blaze TV and radio host of Lawrence Jones Show, also a conservative commentator. All right, I got Lawrence right. Lawrence, let me ask you first, okay? During his campaign, as we just heard time and time again, got a huge round of applause from his supporters that he would build a big, beautiful wall. He also said, though, that Mexico would pay for it. And as we have known all along, the Mexican president says, no, I'm not paying for it. Right. And it was confirmed in those leaked transcripts between the two presidents' phone conversation. So is Congress going to cough up the money, and at what expense?
Well, they're going to have to. I mean, you can't fail at tax reform. You can't fail at health care and the wall. Now, the president may have a little bit of flexibility with the American people, considering illegal immigration is down by 40 to 50%. But at the end of the day, the American people want results. And if you made a promise, you better keep it, or they will remember the next election.
Okay, so Basil, you know, Mark Short, the White House Director of Legislative Affairs, basically says that the Trump administration, and I'm quoting, has clear expectations for the wall, saying that we get tax reform and we also complete funding of the government, which includes rebuilding of the military and securing our border. Do you think that the president anticipated, though, that in order to do that, a government shutdown could potentially be a possibility?
Well, he certainly didn't anticipate it, but that's indeed what may happen. And I think we've heard from Sarah in a couple of segments ago, and certainly from the Washington Examiner, and certainly Nancy Pelosi, who said that the Republicans indeed would get blamed for it because they control the government. But the truth of the matter is, and sort of owing to Lawrence's point earlier, you know, the building the wall was both a literal and metaphorical rallying cry last year. But from a practical standpoint, it takes time. It takes time to commit the money. It takes time to actually build it. So what are Republican members going to be able to tell their constituents end of this year, early next year, into their reelection? So something's going to have to give here, and I think what the GOP is looking at is trying to find a way to get something done. Not this wall, but something done at the end of this year.
They did just, you know, revisit immigration reform, so something is being done. I mean, the wall obviously couldn't have possibly been built this fast anyway. But as far as immigration reform, which is something that the president did campaign on, they have, in fact, made it so that even, you know, legal immigrants will be cut down by 50% in the next 10 years. Immigration reform was a call that they felt needed to be addressed and hasn't been in years. But, Lawrence, Congress must now pass bills to raise the debt ceiling and fund the government before the end of September. And they're taking off August. I mean, so what happens next?
Well, first of all, let's start right there, since you talked about them taking off. I don't understand why they're on vacation when we haven't got bills to the president's desk. And I think that's why the American people are so frustrated. But again, the Republican Congress they will be responsible for this, because you can't continue to make promises to the American people and not deliver. They won't even touch immigration reform. The voters won't touch immigration reform until they secure the border. And yes, the president has a great start, but they wanted a wall. He campaign on the wall. So until they touch that, until they implement that, then you won't see them touch immigration reform. Yeah, they'll talk about some legislation going through, but I guarantee you there won't be a bill hit the president's desk until that's completed.
Okay, let's just talk about that bill, shall we? Because, Basil, I mean, what if, and I say if here, Paul Ryan works his magic, but the bill doesn't get the 60 votes needed to pass in the Senate. What then? I mean, will President Trump accept any substitutes to a wall, like tighter border security, more funding to fight international crime gangs, like MS-13?
Well, I think to answer that question, owing to something you just said earlier, I don't think you'll see a legislative fix per se. I think you'll see what you've seen all along, which is the president use the power of the pen and his executive authority to make these sort of decisions without Congress, and that has consequences at the end of the day. The consequences
same as Obama. They all do it.
No, come on now. That has consequences.
They do it all.
That has consequences at the end of the day, because the question is, will Republican members be able to actually take credit for the things that he's doing? Will they have to defend some of his actions to their constituents, which may not be particularly popular? And again, it doesn't necessarily give the Republican members anything to be able to sell back home when they're asking voters to support them in their reelection.
Well, part of being president isn't necessarily to always make the most popular decisions, but
I agree with that.
when it comes
to the party also.
When we talk about the midterms, though, I mean, if they don't nail something down on this wall, I mean, is something that his base obviously wanted, and they don't nail down health care, they're in for a real mess. But we're going to have to leave it there. All right.
Yeah, they're done.
All right, Lawrence, Basil, thank you both.